Everyone's talking about this report that came out from New York Magazine. It turns out that Fetterman has an Israeli handler, he looks like a dork, and the two dumbasses think that John the Safhir is going to be vice president in 2028. These people have completely lost their damn minds. This is U.S. Democratic Socialists, and let's jump into it. David Safhir, a writer of Jewish history and fundraising for Orthodox causes, has no public background in government or counseling politicians on Capitol Hill. He is not an official staffer or paid outside advisor. A few years ago, he, quote, just kind of appeared in the senator's orbit. One former Fetterman staffer remembers. And then, suddenly, he seemed to be everywhere. Staffers would walk into Fetterman's office only to find Safhir sitting in the room. When the senator went to Israel in 2025, Safhir joined him on the trip. When Fetterman filmed Real Time with Bill Maher, Safhir met with him in Los Angeles. The two are constantly texting and talking, according to multiple former Fetterman staffers, and Safhir has unofficially operated as a top campaign fundraiser and senior advisor. He has even set up and attended sensitive meetings with foreign officials. In some cases, he is the only person staffing those meetings, he's been told. He being Alex Scholz of New York Magazine. So, we know that Fetterman was pro-Israel all the way back during his campaign, right? He was a progressive except for Palestine. But every Democrat was pro-Israel back then. Post-October 7th, when the ogre had already lost all of his support for turning on his progressive values, he just went on a rampage and started destroying his own swamp, ripping out all of his loyal supporters and even apparently almost getting divorced with his wife. That's speculation, but you'll see a video of them later, and you tell me if Gazelle is still into it. Now, he knows that as long as he's pro-Israel, he'll be protected by the establishment, either Republicans or Democrats, even if literally no one else in the voter base actually likes him, including his own staff. Here's back to the reporting. The little-known advisor's growing influence within Fetterman's office comes at a time when the senator, deeply unpopular among Democrats in his home state, is being wooed by the Republicans to switch parties. He has claimed that it is the Democrats who have betrayed their values, while insisting he would be a poor fit in the Republican Party. Fetterman is in a political no man's land, a disastrous development for a first-term senator. His staffers are infuriated with their boss's untenable position in the Senate and his buddy-buddy dynamic with Safhir. Fetterman has largely sidetracked other legislative matters, a current staffer said, and is now spending most of his time focusing on Israel. A few people working for Fetterman have even begun to joke that he is a senator from Tel Aviv and call Safhir chief, because he has more power than the actual chief of staff. Cabell St. John, Fetterman's chief of staff, announced this week at a meeting that she is leaving her position. This is the second chief of staff that he's lost, by the way, because he is completely insane. Here's reporting from Mediaite. St. John became Fetterman's chief of staff in June of 2025, didn't even make it a year, after the departure of Krista Juris. So much for the turnover issue clicks, Fetterman wrote in a text to Axios after the piece was published, along with a picture showing other offices with, quote, purported higher turnover. Fetterman has become increasingly maligned in the Democratic Party, and apparently in his own team, over his support of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. That's an interesting way to phrase genocide. The Iran war and erratic behavior. This man can't hold on to a proper sentence, let alone a proper staff. They're weekend at Bernieing a brain-dead husk at this point. One of his constituents confronted him recently, and you can see it for yourself.
Senator, hi. Just wondering if you could register as independent.
What's it?
I was just wondering if you could just register as an independent.
You can use the caption, independent.
Okay, yeah, very good.
Could you register as an independent? I'm a breast cancer survivor. I had a double mastectomy, and the Trump administration took my health insurance away from me. and you standing with them.
Well, to be clear, I never took anything from anyone, and I'm a.
But you're standing with him and defending him. We can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. Okay, so I just left, and my takeaway was he's brain dead. Like, he had to use a cell phone to translate what I was saying to him. We have a brain dead senator. Giselle just walked away. She didn't care. She just didn't care. She walked away. And it's just like, I just can't take this anymore. Especially when we're dealing with someone in office who's literally hurting people. Like, physically, mentally, emotionally hurting people on purpose. And you want to coddle to him? And then Fetterman was upset because I was recording him. I said, yeah, because it's going on TikTok, asshole.
You saw Giselle in that clip scurry away as soon as she could, not exactly looking like a loving marriage anymore. So who is this David Safhir? This Safhir guy was clearly sent by the Israeli lobby to court the only AIPAC warrior to ever win as a progressive. Safhir's career as a media mouthpiece for the Israeli lobby means he has no ties to Mossad or the Israeli government, technically. Which means that although this is clearly a foreign agent infiltrating a senator's office to push out his team and replace them with Zionists, nothing will come of it, I'm sure. Here's back to the New York Mag's reporting. On a 2018 donation form, Safhir listed his employer as the Wolfsons Group, a New York City-based family investments firm. It's unclear whether Safhir is currently employed there, but over the last few years, he's told some in Fetterman's office that he works for the company, and his active email address is still linked to the firm. The founder of the firm is Safhir's grandfather, Zev Wolfson, a real estate magnate who died at the age of 84. The Israeli embassy to the United States posthumously recognized Wolfson as one of the, quote, greatest American contributors to the U.S.-Israeli relationship. Well, it seems like the grandson is following in the grandfather's footprints. He took P-Head over here to Israel for a special little field trip, and as Fetterman loses his mind, Safhir is clearly tasked with being the worm tongue in his ear, telling him to push further and further to the right. Or maybe that's just what happens naturally, since all right-wingers have brain damage. By early this year, many on Fetterman's staff were incredulous and exhausted. In private, their boss was acting like a Republican, they say. In January 2026, Fetterman sent a group chat with staffers a screenshot of an article headline about how the average working family spends nearly $4,000 annually on healthcare. How should it cost? Free? He complained in the text, which I obtain. I don't understand what affordability it is. You don't understand anything. That's not even a proper sentence. I don't understand what affordability it is. There is zero way that he thinks that this kind of message wouldn't get out to the public or could possibly ever make him popular. He's the only politician in the country with a lower approval rating than Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the lowest of the low on this point. The bottom line is this. John Fetterman, when you look at his net popularity rating at minus 40 points, he's on a completely other planet from Chuck Schumer, who is also unpopular, and he's on a different galaxy entirely from other incumbents who actually lost re-election far less popular than them.
And the reality is, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care what that woman who had a double mastectomy thinks. He doesn't care what any of his voters think. He and Safhir and someone in the Democratic leadership is clearly telling him that his career isn't dead, so long as he supports Israel. He's done in Pennsylvania, sure, but on a national level, the Democrats may be able to find a place for him where AIPAC can keep him safe. I mean, at least he sure thinks so. Last summer, Fetterman called a rare meeting with senior staff to ruminate about his political future. The presidency still intrigued him. 4 staffers say he used to openly talk about running for president, but it had been a bruising few months. He floated something more realistic: vice president on the Democratic Party's 2028 presidential ticket. Quote, almost all of us had our jaws on the floor. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? You don't do your job, you can't raise any money, and your entire party hates you. And sure, these are just the ramblings of a madman whose brain looks like tapioca. He's got no chance, right? He's a Democrat who slathers Trump up every chance he gets. The new Democratic Party is finally roaring back to life as DSA members and progressives steamroll the establishment Democrats. But Fetterman clearly thinks that he has an out here. There is clearly something happening behind the scenes, and that should scare the shit out of all of us.